How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Shelby Oaks. That's right, Chris Stuckmann's first official movie has finally come out, and as I mentioned, it was directed by Chris Stuckmann, known YouTube movie critic who's been reviewing movies for over 15 years. Stars Camille Sullivan, and this is a horror movie about a woman named Mia who's trying to look for her sister Riley, who disappeared 12 years ago. She was part of this paranormal YouTube channel, and Riley and her group of friends were in this ghost town, Shelby Oaks, and they mysteriously vanished. And she's trying to get to the bottom of what happened to her sister and learns some stuff along the way, particularly whether it was stuff from Riley's childhood or things that could be connected to that. So I think this has been said many times when people have talked about Shelby Oaks, about how Chris Stuckman's been a big influence on them. I know he's been an influence on me. I've watched Chris Stuckmann for over 10 years now. I discovered his channel a bit later than other people did, but I definitely felt inspired by his reviews. Not just by his style, but the fact that he enjoyed a lot of the stuff that I enjoyed. Even though Stuckmann's older than me, he grew up on Dragon Ball Z, Hey Arnold, Nintendo games, and other stuff that I was into as well when I was a kid. And even if I don't always agree with his reviews, whether I think a movie that he thinks is good is bad, or I prefer a movie more than he does, I've always respected his review style and how he reviews movies. And I get it. Some people weren't thrilled when, right around the time that Shelby Oaks was announced back in 2021, Chris Stuckmann also announced that he's not going to be reviewing movies that he thinks are bad or would give a negative review to. He's going to focus on movies that he either likes or thinks are good. And I understand that, but I still watch his reviews because he still reviews movies, and some of the movies that he has positive thoughts on that he's reviewed are movies that caught me by surprise that he liked because they were movies that I disagreed with him on. But also, I think the story of Chris Stuckmann that he shared, I think it was early 2021, about how he was a Jehovah Witness and how he got out of it, how the elders tried killing his review filmmaking dreams, and how he went on to pursue his dreams and left the religion. Actually, it makes for the good grounds for a movie. I wonder if Stuckman will ever make a movie on that. But it just shows that what happens when you pursue your dreams. You build a successful YouTube channel like he did, even if it's just based on reviewing movies. And now he's got to direct a movie. And this is a movie that Mike Flanagan produced. Mike Flanagan is tied with some of the best things in horror in the last few years or so. Neon picked up the movie, and with that, they added more to the budget. They were able to do reshoots. Although Stuckman has also said that this is one of the lowest budget movies of the year as well, and you can tell that's low budget. Although for a low budget movie, I will say the special effects, particularly in the third act, were definitely impressive. Not the best, but they actually come across a lot better than horror movies with a bigger budget than Shelby Oaks had. Now, what do I think of Chris Stuckman's first movie? Was it groundbreaking? Was it terrible? It's the definition of a mixed bag. As I said, the special effects look a lot better than expected. Chris is definitely good at the filmmaking part of it. He's good with the camera work. The cinematography actually looked really good. The beginning of the movie, that was like the first 20 minutes of the movie, felt like a documentary with found footage and other elements in it. And that was a really good opening 20 minutes, although the opening credits happen right afterwards. So it does take a while to get to the opening credits. But the beginning of the movie is very good of setting up this mystery, setting up what happened. And interestingly enough, the year 2008, when this girl Riley and her friends disappeared, that was actually the year I first started watching YouTube. I don't know Chris Stuckman. He don't know me. I just find that to be very interesting that he picks the year 2008, a few years after YouTube was created, the year I started watching YouTube. I didn't even watch paranormal investigation stuff at the time. It was basically video game walkthroughs, movie reviews, toy reviews, episodes of old shows that were on YouTube before they got taken down. Although I did later on watch paranormal stuff. But that's another thing I respect, that Chris is paying homage to another corner of YouTube, the exploring abandoned places, paranormal side of YouTube, which is kind of more popular with YouTubers nowadays like Mo Sargi, Oh My Gosh TV. If you're into paranormal stuff or exploring abandoned places, I would check out those channels as well. But this was back in 2008. This was before those guys had channels and probably considered doing stuff like this. I don't know, but if they were considering it at the time. But yeah, the fact that he's going all the way back to 2008 to start this movie off, this mystery. In the horror element of this movie, the moments of suspense, he pulls off pretty well. There are a few jump scares in this movie, which is surprising because I don't think. I mean, I've watched so many Stuckmann reviews. I'm pretty sure he's not big on moments like that. Maybe he is. I can't remember, but I'm kind of surprised that there were a few jump scare moments in the movie. The camera work, particularly when like they're kind of showing like small glimpses of something, like the cracks in a window or a figure in the background. He does a very good job with that. The symbolism that Stuckmann uses as well with the horror element, I think, works out very good. And it's easy to tell that he is being that this movie is influenced by M. Night Shyamalan movies, Blair Witch, The Ring. Like, it's easy to tell what movies were a big influence on Stuckmann making this movie. And performance wise, while it's something, they're not special performances, the acting is actually pretty good in this movie. Kavil Sullivan, who's the main character of this movie, this woman named Mia who's looking for her sister, she does a pretty good job. She's the main focus of this movie. The other performances are pretty good as well. Although this is where I'm gonna start getting into the negatives of this movie. But I do also want to say the penitentiary that Stuckmann filmed in, I forget the name of it, but I know it was the place that they filmed Shawshank Redemption, and I know Stuckmann wanted to film there for quite some time. I'm glad that he got to film there, and he did a really good job with those sequences at that penitentiary. So, he got to do his dream location, and he did it very well. I'm really proud that he got to do that. But now we got to get on to the more negative stuff. And as I said, while the acting's good, character development for the most part is pretty weak in this movie. Camille Sullivan's character is developed very well. She wants to find her sister. She believes her sister is still alive. There's obviously a strain with her marriage, but the other characters, it feels like the movie wouldn't be any different if most of these other characters weren't in this movie. For example, as I said, the husband in the movie, you can tell things are strained. They wanted to have a kid around the time Riley disappeared, but when Riley disappeared, they just didn't have the time to. And I feel like there were opportunities to explore that, but they just didn't get to. I also know like there are a couple of other characters that were like helpful, giving clues that also want to help. There's this detective character that seems like he wants to help, but they never explore these characters. They're just in these movies for like a scene or two, and then they just disappear. While the first act of the movie, now people will say the first act is slow paced. It actually works well because you're building up the mystery in the form of a documentary. You're building it up. You're showing reactions as to how people are reacting to this, the search for these people. I don't mind that the beginning is slow paced. In fact, it works very well. The third act is probably one of the most rushed third acts I have seen in a movie in quite some time. It just feels like, and minor spoiler for the movie, but it starts after she leaves the penitentiary and goes into the Shelby Oaks Woods. And that's when this movie just rushes through. It feels like nothing's explained. It feels like it's up to us, the audience, to figure out what is going on. And it feels like the saving grace of the third act is really the special effects of like how these monstrous demon things look how things are scary. Like that's the saving grace, but it just feels like it's really rushed, and that pertains to the script. The script and screenplay. is very flawed. Chris and his wife wrote the screenplay, and it feels like there was probably maybe a draft or two of it, nothing more, nothing less. Like I've heard directors have had many drafts, screenplay writers have made many drafts of movies. I mean, James Gunn has made several drafts of Superman. Apparently, he's already on his fourth draft of Man of Tomorrow right now. It feels like there weren't multiple drafts. Maybe there were multiple drafts. I don't know. I don't know if Stuckman had someone proofread the screenplay to see if it was good or if it needed improvement, but it's a very flawed screenplay based on how a lot of these characters are portrayed, how things are just rushed into, how certain things feel cliche at the same time, which I'm surprised at because Stuckman is known for criticizing cliches, even in good movies. Even if a movie's good, he will criticize how formulaic something might seem in a movie. So I feel like he didn't avoid that formulaic, typical cliches in a horror movie thing that I can see him criticizing if it was some other person directing it. Now, obviously, this was a low budget movie, even after Neon bought the movie. So maybe they just didn't have time to put stuff in. Maybe there was a better explanation to certain scenes in the original screenplay, but they had to cut it down due to the small budget. But overall, with this movie, this isn't groundbreaking like Kevin Smith's first movie was Clerks. Like that was groundbreaking for comedy and indie film. This isn't Christopher Nolan's Following, where, yeah, compared to Nolan's other movies, Following is probably his weakest or one of his weakest movies, but still a very good movie. Shelby Oaks, what it has going for it is a very good main character that we're rooting for her to help find her sister. That's where her actress Camille Sullivan's giving a very good performance. Great cinematography, very good filmmaking, good moments of suspense, good settings, a good first act that sets up the movie well. But then you have a screenplay that could have been fixed. Most of the other characters feeling underdeveloped and unnecessary. Not that they're bad, but it feels like there wouldn't have been a difference if they weren't in the movie. Like the husband character wouldn't have made a difference if he wasn't in the movie or not. Like a rush third act. But overall, with Shelby Oaks, I'm glad Chris Stuckman got to make this movie. There's been worse movies with bigger budgets than this, especially horror movies. YouTubers have made way worse movies than this. This is actually a step in the right direction, I think, for YouTube filmmaking. But I think Chris is never going to watch my channel, probably. He's probably not going to watch this review. But I do think Chris would be better off for his next movie to either have someone proofread the scripts, have more drafts of the scripts, or get a writer with more experience to either just write the screenplay by themselves or write it with him or his wife, assuming his wife writes more screenplays because she wrote this screenplay with him. But overall, I did enjoy this movie. It's a good movie to watch around this time of year, spooky season, Halloween. Will I go out of my way to watch this movie again? Probably not, unless there's a rainy day and this movie's on a streaming service or TV or maybe even YouTube if Stuckman decides to put this movie on YouTube for free. Like I'll probably watch it on a rainy day or something. But again, there's a lot of promise for Chris Stuckman as a director because the technical stuff he did a very good job with. But he really needs to fix how he approaches screenplays, how he develops the characters besides the main character. But overall, with Shelby Oaks, I'm gonna give this movie a C plus. C for Chris Stuckman. Was I Stuckmannized? I was Stuckmannized by how the movie looked. I was not Stuckmannized by the story though. It had a promising story, promising elements, but it could have been executed well. Again, I don't know if that's because of budget constraints, like they just couldn't do it due to the small budget they had, or that there weren't a lot of drafts to it. I don't know. Maybe Chris Stuckmann has mentioned it, like how many drafts he made of the movie or how he approached stuff. I don't know. I got to watch any interviews that he's done about Shelby Oaks. I'll be probably checking out his channel to see if he made a reaction to the criticisms or reception of Shelby Oaks. But I do hope he makes more movies. He deserves it. He worked his way up to get to this point, and I can tell he's very passionate about the filmmaking experience. And he has been open in saying he wanted to make. I think it was a Metroid movie he wanted to make, a Samus movie, and I think there's going to be more pressure though if he does studio movies. So maybe he should stick to indie for a while before he takes on bigger projects, builds his way up. But yeah, Shelby Oaks. Have you seen it? What you think about it? And what's your favorite first movie directed by a director? Like the first movie that a director had ever made that made a big impact on you. For me, it's Kevin Smith's Clerks. It's just the perfect comedy, perfect indie movie. And that was also made with a low budget by Kevin Smith. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share this with someone who loves Chris Stuckmann videos, who is interested in giving Chris Stuckmann's movie a shot. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.